What if I told you that the secret to destroying your weakest habits lies not in willpower, not in motivation, but in a ruthless system developed by one of history's most disciplined minds? A system so powerful that it transformed not just individual lives but entire ways of thinking about human potential? Every single day, millions of people wake up with the same promise to themselves, the same desperate hope that today will be different, that today they'll finally break free from the patterns that keep them trapped in mediocrity. Yet by evening they find themselves exactly where they started, caught in the same cycle of self-sabotage and disappointment. But what if everything you've been taught about habit change is fundamentally wrong? What if the reason you keep failing isn't because you lack discipline or strength, but because you're using the wrong approach entirely? Today, I want to share with you the revolutionary system that Minamoto Yoshitsune discovered through studying the legendary military commander Yoshitsune, a system that doesn't rely on motivation or willpower, but on something far more powerful and reliable. This isn't just another self-help strategy or motivational speech. This is a complete transformation of how you understand the very nature of human behavior and change itself. Before we dive deep into this life-changing system, I need you to do something for me right now. Hit that like button if you've ever felt frustrated by your inability to stick to positive changes. Subscribe to this channel if you're serious about finally breaking free from the patterns that hold you back. And leave a comment telling me which habit has been your biggest enemy, because understanding your specific struggle will help me create even more targeted content to support your journey. Your engagement doesn't just help the algorithm, it helps me understand exactly what you're facing, so I can provide the most valuable insights possible. Let me tell you about Sarah, a successful marketing executive who seemed to have everything together from the outside. She had a corner office, drove a luxury car, lived in a beautiful home, yet every morning she woke up feeling like a fraud because she couldn't control the simplest aspects of her personal life. She'd been trying to quit smoking for 7 years, had attempted every diet known to mankind, and despite earning 6 figures, she couldn't save money to save her life. Sarah would start each week with elaborate plans, detailed schedules, and fierce determination, only to find herself on Thursday evening ordering takeout while smoking her 10th cigarette of the day and shopping online for things she didn't need. She tried meditation apps, hired personal trainers, read every productivity book on the market, attended seminars, joined support groups, and even worked with therapists. Yet nothing seemed to create lasting change. The problem wasn't that Sarah lacked intelligence, resources, or even desire for change. The problem was that she was fighting against the wrong enemy entirely. This is where Minamoto Yatoshine's profound understanding comes into play, drawn from his deep study of how Yoshitsune approached seemingly impossible military challenges. Yatoshine recognized that Yoshitsune never defeated stronger enemies through brute force or superior numbers. Instead, he won through understanding the invisible systems that governed battlefield dynamics. Similarly, your habits aren't individual behaviors that exist in isolation. They're part of interconnected systems that operate below your conscious awareness. And until you understand these systems, you'll continue to fight losing battles against symptoms rather than causes. The traditional approach to habit change focuses on the habit itself, trying to use willpower to override existing patterns. But this is like trying to stop a river by standing in front of it with your hands outstretched. Yatoshine's system recognizes that habits are merely the surface expression of deeper systemic patterns. And by changing the system rather than fighting the habit, transformation becomes not just possible, but inevitable. The foundation of Yatoshine's approach rests on what he called the principle of ruthless simplicity, which states that the most powerful changes come not from adding complexity, but from removing it. When Yoshitsune faced overwhelming odds at the Battle of Ichi no Tani, he didn't try to match his enemy's complex strategies. Instead, he identified the single point of maximum leverage and focused all his energy there. In your life, this means identifying the one keystone habit that supports all your unwanted behaviors and targeting that foundation rather than fighting multiple symptoms simultaneously. For Sarah, this breakthrough came when she realized that her evening routine of checking her phone while eating dinner was the keystone that triggered everything else. That single habit led to mindless eating, which led to guilt, which led to smoking for stress relief, which led to staying up too late scrolling social media, which led to poor sleep, which led to low energy the next day, which made her reach for caffeine and sugar, perpetuating the entire cycle. Instead of trying to quit smoking, improve her diet, exercise more, and manage her finances all at once, Sarah focused solely on creating a phone-free dinner routine, and within 3 weeks, the entire system began to shift naturally. But here's where most people still get it wrong. And this is crucial for you to understand. They think that identifying the keystone habit is enough. But Yoshitsune understood that knowledge without proper implementation is worthless. This is why he developed what he called the 3 levels of ruthless implementation. And I want you to pay close attention, because this is where the real transformation happens. The first level is environmental ruthlessness, which means engineering your physical environment so that the unwanted behavior becomes not just difficult but practically impossible. This isn't about relying on willpower. It's about making willpower irrelevant. Sarah didn't just decide to not check her phone during dinner. She created a charging station in another room and established a ritual of physically walking her phone there before beginning her evening routine. The second level is social ruthlessness, which involves surrounding yourself with people who make your desired behavior the path of least resistance, rather than trying to change in isolation. Sarah found an accountability partner who would call her every evening at dinner time, not to check on her but simply to chat while they both ate phone-free dinners together. The third level is mental ruthlessness, which means changing the internal dialogue and belief systems that support the unwanted patterns. Sarah worked on shifting from, "I'm trying to quit smoking," to, "I'm becoming someone who doesn't need cigarettes to handle stress," fundamentally altering her identity rather than just her behavior. Now, I want to pause here and speak directly to you because I know some of you might be thinking that this sounds too simple, that your situation is different, that you've tried environmental changes before, and they didn't work. Here's what Yoshitsune understood that most people miss. The system only works when all 3 levels operate simultaneously, and when you approach implementation with genuine ruthlessness, not half-hearted attempts. Most people try environmental changes while maintaining the same social circles and mental patterns, then wonder why they fail. Or they work on mindset while ignoring environmental triggers, setting themselves up for unnecessary struggle. The power of Yotoshin's system lies not in any single element, but in the synergistic effect of all 3 levels working together to create what he called an ecosystem of inevitable change. Let me share with you exactly how this works in practice across the 3 areas of your life where it matters most. On a personal level, ruthless habit transformation means designing your daily environment to support your highest self rather than your current self. This means removing not just obvious triggers, but also subtle environmental cues that you might not even realize are influencing your behavior. If you struggle with social media addiction, it's not enough to delete apps from your home screen. You need to remove your phone from your bedroom, install website blockers on your computer, and replace the dopamine hit of scrolling with a different activity that serves your goals. If you're working to improve your diet, it means clearing your kitchen of processed foods entirely, meal prepping on weekends, and having healthy snacks visible and accessible while keeping less healthy options out of sight and difficult to access. The key is making good choices automatic, while making poor choices require deliberate effort and conscious decision-making. On a relational level, Yotoshine's system requires what he called strategic social engineering, which means consciously curating your social environment to support your transformation rather than sabotage it. This doesn't mean cutting off friends who don't share your goals, but it does mean being intentional about who you spend time with and in what contexts. If you're working to develop better financial habits, start spending time with people who have healthy relationships with money, rather than those who normalize overspending or financial chaos. Join communities, online or offline, where your desired behaviors are the norm rather than the exception. Find an accountability partner who shares your commitment to growth and establish regular check-ins that focus not on judgment, but on mutual support and honest reflection. Create social rituals that reinforce your new identity rather than your old patterns, and be willing to have uncomfortable conversations with people whose influence undermines your progress. On a professional level, the applications of Yotoshine's ruthless system can transform not just your personal habits, but your entire career trajectory. Begin by identifying the keystone professional habits that create ripple effects across all areas of your work life. For many people, this is how they start their workday, because the first hour sets the tone for everything that follows. Instead of checking email or social media first thing in the morning, what if you dedicated that time to your most important project, to learning a valuable skill, or to strategic planning? Create environmental supports by organizing your workspace to minimize distractions and maximize focus. Establish social supports by finding mentors and colleagues who embody the professional standards you aspire to, and develop mental supports by shifting from seeing challenges as problems to viewing them as opportunities for growth and skill development. Track not just your productivity, but your energy levels throughout the day. identifying patterns that support sustained high performance rather than short bursts followed by crashes. But here's where Yatoshine's insight becomes truly revolutionary. And this is something that modern psychology is only beginning to understand. He recognized that lasting change doesn't happen through fighting against your current patterns, but through building such compelling alternatives that your old behaviors naturally fade away because they no longer serve any purpose in your life. This is what he called the principle of attractive replacement. And it's the difference between willpower-based change that requires constant effort and identity-based change that becomes self-sustaining. Instead of trying to quit smoking through willpower and deprivation, you become someone who gets stress relief through exercise and deep breathing, making cigarettes irrelevant rather than forbidden. Instead of trying to force yourself to wake up early, you create an evening routine so fulfilling and a morning routine so energizing that early rising becomes something you look forward to, rather than something you dread. The most profound aspect of Yatoshine's system is how it addresses what he identified as the root cause of habit persistence. The unconscious belief that changing your behavior means losing something valuable rather than gaining something better. Every habit you want to change serves some function in your life, even if that function is ultimately destructive. Your procrastination might serve the function of avoiding potential failure. Your people-pleasing might serve the function of avoiding conflict. Your overspending might serve the function of feeling momentarily powerful or loved. Until you find healthier ways to meet these underlying needs, your attempts at change will feel like deprivation, and deprivation is unsustainable. Yatoshine's genius was recognizing that sustainable change requires not just removing unwanted behaviors, but consciously designing superior alternatives that meet the same underlying needs more effectively. This is why his system emphasizes what he called functional replacement analysis, where you examine each unwanted habit to understand what positive function it serves, then design a healthier behavior that serves that same function more effectively. If you eat junk food when stressed because it provides comfort and temporary pleasure, you might replace it with a brief walk outside, which provides stress relief plus physical benefits, plus vitamin D, plus mental clarity. If you scroll social media when bored because it provides stimulation and connection, you might replace it with calling a friend, reading a book, or engaging in a hobby that provides deeper satisfaction, plus skill development, plus genuine accomplishment. The key is ensuring that your replacement behavior is not just healthier, but actually more rewarding than what you're replacing, making the change feel like an upgrade rather than a sacrifice. Now, I need to address something that's probably happening in your mind right now, because Yatoshin understood this psychological phenomenon perfectly. Part of you is getting excited about these possibilities, while another part is already generating reasons why this won't work for you, why your situation is different, why you've tried similar approaches before without success. This internal resistance isn't a sign that change is impossible. It's actually a predictable part of the transformation process that Yatoshine called the guardian of the status quo. Your brain is literally designed to resist change because change represents uncertainty, and uncertainty feels dangerous to the primitive parts of your mind that are responsible for keeping you alive. Understanding this resistance as normal and expected rather than as evidence of personal weakness is crucial for moving through it successfully. Yatoshine taught that the guardian of the status quo becomes strongest just before breakthrough, which means the moment you feel most like giving up is often the moment you're closest to success. He developed specific strategies for working with this resistance rather than against it, including the practice of micro-commitments, where you start with changes so small that your brain doesn't perceive them as threatening. Instead of committing to exercise for an hour every day, you might commit to putting on your workout clothes every morning. Instead of committing to a strict diet, you might commit to drinking 1 extra glass of water with each meal. These micro-commitments bypass resistance because they're too small to trigger the fear response. Yet they begin to build the neural pathways and identity shifts that support larger changes over time. The final element of Yatoshine's system that I want to share with you today is perhaps the most important, and it's what he called the principle of compassionate ruthlessness. Being ruthless doesn't mean being harsh with yourself when you slip up. It means being ruthless about protecting your commitment to growth while maintaining compassion for the human challenges of change. It means being ruthless about removing influences that undermine your progress, while being gentle with yourself when you make mistakes. It means being ruthless about designing systems that support success, while being patient with the timeline of transformation. Most people fail at habit change not because they lack commitment, but because they lack self-compassion. creating internal environments so harsh and critical that their brains naturally rebel against the discomfort. True ruthlessness, according to Yoshitsune, means ruthlessly protecting your peace of mind, ruthlessly defending your energy from people and activities that drain rather than energize you, and ruthlessly prioritizing what matters most while ruthlessly eliminating what doesn't serve your highest good. This kind of ruthlessness actually creates more space for joy, creativity, and genuine connection, because you're no longer wasting precious life force on patterns and relationships that diminish rather than enhance your experience of being alive. Let me tell you what happened to Sarah after she fully implemented Yatoshine's system. Within 6 months, she had naturally stopped smoking without a single moment of feeling deprived, because her new stress management practices were so much more effective that cigarettes became irrelevant. She lost 30 pounds without following a diet, because her new relationship with food was based on nourishment and enjoyment rather than emotional regulation. Her finances transformed because she discovered that her overspending was really a search for excitement and novelty, which she began meeting through travel, learning new skills, and pursuing creative projects that actually enriched her life. But most importantly, she stopped feeling like she was fighting against herself and started feeling like all parts of her were working together toward the same goals, creating a sense of internal harmony she had never experienced before. This transformation didn't happen because Sarah became a different person. It happened because she learned to work with her brain's natural patterns rather than against them, creating systems that made positive choices inevitable rather than requiring constant willpower. She discovered that she didn't need to become more disciplined. She needed to become more intelligent about how discipline actually works, designing her life so that doing the right thing became easier than doing the wrong thing. As we reach the end of our time together today, I want to leave you with this crucial understanding. You are not broken, lazy, or lacking in willpower. You have simply been using ineffective strategies to create change, and now you have access to a system that has transformed countless lives across centuries. The question is not whether this system works. The question is whether you're willing to implement it with the consistency and commitment it requires. Remember, Yatoshine's approach isn't about perfection. It's about progress. And every small step you take using these principles builds momentum toward the transformation you seek. If this video has shown you a new possibility for your life, I want you to subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell so you never miss insights that could change everything for you. Leave a comment below sharing which aspect of Yatoshine's system resonates most with your situation, and describe the one keystone habit you're going to focus on first, because when you make that public commitment, you activate the social level of the system we discussed today. Your journey toward becoming the person you're meant to be starts with this single decision to apply what you've learned, rather than just consuming information passively. The system works, but only when you work the system. And I believe you have everything within you to create the transformation you desire, starting right now with the very next choice you make.